You can get a $50,000 tiny house on wheels. Is this thing beautiful? No, it is not beautiful. It is not that good looking. But it's $50,000 and the infrastructure costs $10,000 and you can get this thing done in 1 month. There is no municipal inspections. There is no standards to which these things must be built. This is totally Wild West rogue development.
Good day, friends. Derek, that ADU guy here. And my friend and colleague Cole just talked about what they're doing in Portland with tiny houses on wheels and RVs. There are millions of people already in this country living in RVs. In most cases, they just have to be in a zone where RV parks are allowed.
I'm working on statewide legislative reform to allow this in Oregon and Washington with the Sightline Institute. And so I don't know if that'll proceed or not, but this is like not a politically popular concept to allow for people to live in RVs on residential properties. But in practice, what we're seeing is really cute tiny houses on wheels that are RVs officially, legally speaking. And so the market, clearly is like, this is taking off and this is working, and people are not going to put in like crappy, zombie RVs that you see on the streets on residential properties. They're going to put in nice looking things because that's what they want to do on their property, just like they do with ADUs. Maybe there'll be some downsides to this radical Wild West approach in the future. But as far as right now, it is absolutely like solving the housing crisis in a meaningful way using the private market with no government subsidy, just like ADUs. I now started a company called Tiny Hookups where we serve as a general contractor, putting in infrastructure for homes. And we are getting now calls like one a day for people who want to put in hookups on their property in Portland. Incidentally, RVs are already allowed as permanent housing, but we've restricted it only to RV parks, which are only allowed in commercial zones. And what we're doing is unlocking land in highly desirable areas with lots of amenities that have internet and fences and residential amenities and schools nearby that they can walk to, and creating affordable housing that's like incredibly good ROI. The infrastructure is just like an ADU. So we extended the water, sewer, and electric, 50 amp electrical circuit, a fast charger for an EV, Ethernet underground. So there's a trench that's underground. I did the trenching. So it's $6,000 of cost to mostly to an electrician and a plumber. Incidentally, this fencing is this is all 100% salvage as well. I built this out. I do this for different projects that I work at. And this is, just beautiful metal that would have been thrown away, sold at 50 cents per pound. Addresses are not officially given to tiny house on wheels. If you just put up an address like this one, you can get mail delivered to it, and USPS will never ask you anything about it. They just start delivering mail to it. Absolutely works. We've actually put another address on another property I used to live on. We wrote, like whatever it was, 1955 Tiny, and they started delivering mail to 1955 Tiny. Among other things, architecturally to note, the top of the tiny house has industrial refrigerator panel as the insulation roofing material. It's got a lofted sleeping space. The toilet is a triangular toilet with a triangular tank, and that is what drew the builder to make a triangular faced utilization of the space above the trailer tongue, which has never been done in any other tiny house I've seen. He probably spent, I don't know, $10,000 worth of materials building this thing, or less, maybe $5,000, because it's all 100% used. It's called Skyline because it was built by Skyline Champion as an RV. Then it burned out at some point as an RV.
Can you put a tiny house in the setback?
Yeah, so Jill asked, can you put a tiny house in the setback? The answer is yes. This is not a structure. You can build it up to the property line. If there was a big tree here, you could not build an ADU here, but you can put a tiny house on wheels, because it's on wheels, right underneath the tree. You can only do one per property on residential properties in Portland, but that should arguably be more, but we won't get into that. And they're supposed to be behind the house. People are putting them in the front.
Is the resistance to that because they don't like tiny homes in their backyard, or because of like homelessness through RV?
I don't know. I'm so not a NIMBY that I can't really articulate what the resistance is. But I can tell you every regulator doesn't like it because they think this is going to, it's the same arguments you hear for ADUs. It's like, these are going to degrade the neighborhood. It's bad for the infrastructure. There's going to be encampments everywhere. People are not going to know how to manage their sewage. It's going to spill on the sidewalk. It's going to create too much demand on the water system, blah, 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 blah. It's just the same arguments that are put, out there against ADUs. People don't want like inspectors coming into their property. People don't want to have to build to these things to certain standards. Most of the tiny houses on wheels are in fact DIY tiny houses. Like that's the origin of the tiny house whole movement, is DIY home built housing that's not part of the housing regime. The only permits that are required are for the hookup infrastructure, which we put in as licensed general contractors with licensed electricians and licensed plumbers. But the tiny house itself is never inspected. It is not built to any standards. And that is such a hard pill for people to get their head around, but it is what is working here. That results in things like, on the low end, a $10,000 shitty Winnebago from 1970 that's leaking being allowed to be used. We've had one client do that, and they had their homeless father from Texas move up and live in it. And I'd say it's probably a better solution than the alternatives for that homeless father. Most of our clients are putting in $50,000 to $100,000 tiny houses, and some people are putting in $200,000 really cute tiny houses. That's what the market is going to create if you don't create any kind of regulatory oversight. It's a big kind of leap of faith that will occur, but I think the same thing has happened with ADUs, and it's proven to be very successful at this point. So I think we can anticipate that same kind of thing will occur with RVs being used as housing.
Are there taxes paid?
There is zero taxes for this because it is not considered real estate. It is personal property, like your vehicle.
You have to license it like you would an RV.
Nope, there is zero licensing requirements. There is zero standards to which this must be built. There is zero inspections of this thing ever, just like in an RV park. If you go into an RV park with an RV, it is never inspected. Nobody ever asks for your RV insignia. Nobody ever says, this thing is unsafe to live in. Nobody ever says the sewage is going to spill everywhere. The RV park owner says, yeah, $30 a night. Thank you very much. You're welcome to go park your thing in there. That's what we're doing here in Portland, except people are living in it indefinitely. Also, you can't do short-term rentals.
One question. If you had like 1 minute to tell a legislator why we need to allow this as a housing type statewide, what would you say?
I would say this is the least expensive market rate housing option in America. And all you have to do is strike one sentence from your code that says you cannot live in an unpermitted structure. You can live in an RV on your residential property, and that will essentially resolve the housing crisis in America.
If you made it to the end of the video, you obviously care about infill housing types. It's not the actual form or the housing type that people are afraid of. People are really fearful of an RV in their neighborhood. There's going to be needles and there's going to be theft and oh no, tenants. We saw similar pushback early on in the ADU movement. And now I'm not saying that RVs and tiny houses on wheels are perfect for every area, but they are one more solution. In the last 4 years that the city of Portland has allowed these, we haven't seen any data that shows them to be unsafe. As the property owner, you're going to have to take the responsibility to get the water, sewer, and power hookups inspected. And I would also remind people that there are millions of houses in the US that were built pre-inspection. So when we hear the safety argument, I really think it's a disguise for we're NIMBYs and we don't want this housing type in our community. Let me know what you think in the comments. If this video or videos like this bring you value, feel free to send it to a friend or like and subscribe and follow along our channel where we try to share affordable, attainable housing types with people all over the country and hopefully make a difference and put more needed housing into the market. Thanks so much for watching.